Hey everybody, how y'all doing? I wanted to hop on just to go over something that I have been thinking about. Um, I know a lot of people have been talking about recently it's been said that Amazon has been asked to provide click activity for the knife. I guess the prosecution at some point subpoenaed various stores to do a search to see if anyone purchased a K-bar style knife. I'm assuming that that did not um, bring back any results. So now there is a request for click activity. So I just want to go over that first before I talk about the footprint. Okay, the shoe impression, not footprint, shoe impression. So, according to ABC News, this is an article that was released on September 27th. The title is Idaho Authorities Probe Amazon Click Activity for Knives Possibly Connected to College Killings. So, the link is on the Facebook Hidden Horror page. Investigators probing the murders of four University of Idaho students sought records from, sought records of Amazon purchases, Apple data, and communications and payments made through PayPal/Venmo, according to newly released records. Among the Amazon click history that investigators sought was information concerning knives. The search warrant shows. Police say they believe Brian Koberger, 28, the suspect charged in the Moscow, Idaho killings on November 13th, 2022, used a knife to commit the murders. Although a knife sheath was found near the body of one of the victims, authorities say the murder weapon has not been found. In a series of search warrant documents posted late Tuesday to the court docket, though they are dated September 8th, authorities requested purchase history and payment method details for an Amazon customer whose identity has been redacted. The warrant also included a request for all detailed customer click activity pertaining to knives and accessories, as well as a long list of information that could flesh out the customer's full shopping movements and interests on the site, including items saved to the cart, suggestions for future purchases, and items reviewed by the customer. The Moscow Police Department did not immediately respond to ABC News' request for comment. The warrant requests all detail from the account for two precise time periods, March 20th of 2022 through March 30th of 2022 and November 1st of 2022 through December 6, 2022. It was served in mid-May, several months after Kohlberger's initial arrest and just a week before a North Idaho grand jury handed up an indictment against him. The requested data was received by law enforcement by the beginning of July, inventoried and placed into evidence at the Moscow Police Department, according to an affidavit included in court documents. Also included in the newly posted documents are search warrants for Apple and PayPal Venmo for account identities that were also redacted. In the Apple search, authorities requested extensive account information, including all devices, addresses, and numbers linked to the account, means and source of payment, all emails associated with the account, and attachments in order to locate any materials referencing the planning or commission of the quadruple murders, according to the warrant. The warrant also requested the contents of any instant messages associated with the Apple account, as well as the contents of all files and other records stored on iCloud. The warrant for the Apple search was served on August 1st. Excuse me. And the data was received by law enforcement on August 9th, according to a Moscow police detective's affidavit. The documents for the PayPal/Venmo warrant show that excuse me, authorities asked for records specifically from June 22nd, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, requesting subscriber details like billing information, payment records, all financial transactions, and to whom those payments went, geolocation data, screen names, and all associated email addresses and phone numbers. Law enforcement received the data on August 1st, a week after the warrant was served, according to an affidavit from a forensic detective with the Moscow Police Department. An inventory was prepared and the information was placed into evidence at the police department. Excuse me. PayPal/Venmo declined to comment when reached by ABC News. Representatives for Amazon and Apple did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Prosecutors alleged that in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, Kohlberger, a criminology PhD student at nearby Washington State University, broke into an off-campus home and stabbed to death four University of Idaho students: Ethan Chapman, 20, Madison Mogan, 21, Zaina Kernerdle, 20, and Kaylee Goncalves, 21. After a 6-week hunt, police zeroed in on Kohlberger as a suspect, tracking his white Hyundai Elantra and cell phone signal data and recovering what authorities said was his DNA on the button snap of a K-bar knife sheath found by one of the victims' bodies at the crime scene. He was arrested on December 30th and indicted in May, charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. At his arraignment, he declined to offer a plea, so the judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. In court filings, lawyers for Kohlberger have said that on the night of the killings, their client was driving around alone, which they said had long been a habit of his, adding he is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohlberger was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022, and early morning November 13th, 2022. Kohlberger was out driving during the late night and early morning hours on the night in question, his attorneys added. Though the trial was initially set for October 2nd, Kohlberger waived his right to a speedy trial in August, postponing the trial indefinitely. Excuse me. I would like to say something about this. I'm going to play, well, this video is kind of long. I think everybody have heard this information, this news now, with requesting um, the records, any purchase activity, any click activity, any recommendations by Amazon. And again, my concern is what is going on with trying to build a case first, trying to build evidence, collect evidence, be prepared for the trial. Some of these requests are as recent as 2 months ago. Mr. Kohlberger, he was arrested in December of 2022. We're approaching almost a year since he was arrested, and it just does not appear that there is a strong case because they're still trying to place the knife, place the purchase of the knife. They have not found allegedly the knife, and they're trying to connect Mr. Kohlberger to the purchase of the knife. And I get it, but it just seems like this is almost working backwards. Um, it's just, to me, it's just bringing up more potential for reasonable doubt. Not having the alleged murder weapon, not even being able to show that he purchased a knife. Um, this is not good, especially for people that already essentially felt there were other things in the case that were very weak. Um, so I wanna talk about the foot impression because my concern, if you were able to take a latent foot impression, get the copy, was it the size of Mr. Kohlberger's shoe size? Was it even close? If, for example, Mr. Kohlberger or the assailant or suspect wears a size 8, was the impression a size 9? Was it a size 7? Was it a 10? Was it 11? Um, I wanted to show the pattern of the bottom of the shoe, and I want to talk a little bit about the shoe in more detail because, excuse me, I feel like I don't want to overlook what I feel is known evidence allegedly. Now, I'm going to go over how the evidence was found, and it's found initially in the probable cause affidavit. So, if you have the statement of Brett Payne, and if you go to page 5, paragraph 2, I want to read that to you because I would like to know more specifically what what is the link. The shoe impression um, was brought up in the probable cause affidavit, and I would like to know, is the impression linked to Mr. Kohlberger? Is it a shoe that was obtained during the search? So I know when the trial happens, if it happens, this is something that both the prosecutor and the defense, I'm sure they're going to bring up. I don't know if it's going to support the prosecutor by being a match for a shoe they either found when they did the search warrant um, on, I'm sure his personal residence and then his family's residence. I'm sure they were looking for a shoe. This pattern is um, very unique in my opinion. How it has a distinct pattern. So this is something that should be able to be matched. And also, like I said before, with size. Is the size of the shoe that Mr. Kohlberger wears? Is it something close? Um, is there a record of him purchasing this style of shoe? Is there any pictures of him wearing this style of shoe? Um, that would be something that I'm interested in because if they're trying to connect Mr. Kohlberger not just with the purchase, but to the scene, physically there, something, the knife, uh, the shoe impression, the fingerprint, all of this is going to place him physically there. Did they find the shoes? Because I think that will help strengthen the case, not just showing that he was driving around allegedly. Mr. Kohlberger has already admitted that in his alibi. That was already pretty much known. Albeit we don't know if they can place him in the car that's on the video. Is there a face? Is there something that nobody really talks about? What about the license plate? Was there any license plate readers driving all these hours? Was there any license plate readers able to pick up the vehicle? Was there anybody in the car with Mr. Kohlberger? Were they able to take a picture of him? What was he wearing? Can they analyze um, the clothing that he had on? If they were able to take multiple pictures throughout that whatever time frame of driving, 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, I don't know. But was he wearing the same clothes? Just things like that that I'm thinking about. I think they're going to have to find a meaningful way to connect him and place him physically in the house, even with the DNA allegedly on the knife sheath. The DNA is not going to um, show that that happened that day, that that transfer or that impression of the fingerprint, the touch DNA happened that day. There's no time. That can be in passing and touching something else, somebody touching you, all kind of ways to explain that away. But if you can find a way to place him in the house at the time with the shoes. Now, did they recover the shoes? Is it the same shoe size? Just basic, simple things. So let's read this part of the probable cause affidavit so we have our foundation on why we're talking about this foot impression, because this is something that hasn't really come up in court by the prosecutor or the defense. And I'm not sure if the defense is thinking about it because they haven't really made us think about it. But I'm wondering if they received this evidence. Did you receive the latent footprint? Were you able to get it examined? Um, and if so, what was the determination? What was the size of the shoe? What was the style of the shoe? Um, was this impression in blood or was it invisible? Was chemicals used to capture it? And then also, the important part is, let's talk about where the latent foot impression, the shoe impression was found, right? Because that's important. That's going to show us where the possible suspect was in the house. So let's talk about all of that. Okay, so I'm going to read what's in the probable cause affidavit and Brett Payne's statement. Okay, page 5, paragraph 2. And it reads as follows. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then aminoblack, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans type shoe sole just outside the door of DM's bedroom located on the second floor. This is consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. Excuse me. So, I'm showing you right now this diamond-shaped pattern that they're saying is similar to the Vans type of shoe sole. So you can take a good look at that. Um, And then where was this latent shoe print found? It says it was found just outside the door of DM's bedroom. Now, DM's bedroom was on the second floor. So, just thinking about everything now, they're saying that this was found during the second processing of the crime scene. So, not the first time, the thorough time, but the second time. So that's a little concerning, but they did have to use some chemicals to find it. So I guess it was not visible to the eye. But this would suggest, or I can interpret, I can think that if DM's door was closed and she repeatedly opened it to look out, so she was hearing things. She was hearing Zaina, she was hearing the dog, she was hearing some noises. That means that if this is accurate and correct, does this say to us, or does it suggest that the alleged suspect knew that she was alive in the room and maybe even heard her? Because it's saying that the impression was just outside of her bedroom door. So that makes me believe that the alleged suspect, even though he was in the area to um, come through that second floor past Zaina's room and also go to the third floor, and I'm not saying one person, it could have been multiple people, but at some point, this would mean that he or she walked over, was standing directly on the other side of the door of DM. Now we have to think about it. Excuse me. We have to think about this. We cannot just overlook this. DM was in the room, allegedly woken up about 4 a.m., hearing various sounds, hearing crying, hearing noise. Um, at some point, or she saw the person walk past her and leave, and she was in the frozen shock. I don't know if this means she was outside of her bedroom door or if she was still inside her bedroom door. Because for the person to walk past you and you're saying that the person went towards the sliding door, walked towards that way as to exit the home, does that mean that she was outside of her bedroom? And also, at what point did the alleged suspect stand outside her bedroom door? Was that the only, was this impression the only one able to be found? And was law enforcement looking for shoe impressions inside the bedroom? Now, I can remember watching several videos, and I believe the floor was a wooden floor, and it looked like it had a ceiling on it, like a polyurethane base or oil base. Now, for the bedrooms, did they have carpet or did they have wooden floors? From what I remember, I believe they also had wooden floors. So, was there any shoe impressions inside the bedroom? Since this one is directly outside of the bedroom, that means that the suspect, excuse me, or potentially the suspect was on the other side of the bedroom door of DM. What is concerning is this impression was found after the second processing of the scene. And as all of us have seen, so many detectives, law enforcement, um, officers were going in and out of the scene, collecting evidence, gathering evidence, probably taking pictures. Um, even the medical examiner would have had to go in to take the physical body. So, is this um, something that is very important in the case, or could this be possibly someone else stepping into um, making the shoe impression? It's so hard to know this because this is the second processing of the scene. So many people in and out. And to me, it is not consistent with what DM said. Technically, for the location of DM's bedroom, for the assailant or the suspect, or potentially the suspect was right outside of her door, it just throws more questions to me. Um, I just have more questions, more concerns. Um, did the suspect walk up to the room? Was the suspect listening to see if someone was alive? Did the suspect try to pull the door knob, the door handle? Did he try to shake it to see if the door was unlocked? With the statement that GM had, which was, let me go to and read it. On page 4, the last paragraph, it says DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. So where was she? If this person is walking towards her and they're saying that she opened the door, was she still standing in the bedroom? Because these are not in the same direction. Her bedroom and leaving out, going towards the back sliding doors off the kitchen is not in the same direction, in my opinion. GM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. But how did he walk past her if she's in her bedroom? She's opening the door, looking out in her bedroom. Maybe the layout is wrong of the house. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. And maybe they don't literally mean walk past her. Maybe they should have just said walked by, because pass and it puts you in their path, in my opinion. It says DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Well, I don't think they can even say that he was the murderer. Just say possible suspect, because we don't know. But it makes me have all these questions. Um, I don't know. And maybe this is why they never really brought up the shoe impression so much that was found. Maybe it's just another, um, issue with how the evidence was collected, how the crime scene was, and how I refer to it as contaminated. Let's go and read the article. Okay. Now, this is from Fox 13. This was dated January 10th, 2023, and it's titled Brian Kohlberger Case Footprint Found Inside Idaho Crime Scene Could Help Cops Build Case. The footprint found inside the Idaho home where a PhD criminal justice student allegedly stabbed four University of Idaho undergrads to death could help police build their case beyond the initial probable cause affidavit, experts say. However, its value may depend on what else detectives found, with a series of search warrants served following the arrest of Brian Kohlberger, 28, more than 2,500 miles from the crime scene. In a probable cause affidavit released Thursday morning, investigators revealed that a shoe print found at the crime scene had a sole pattern that resembled that of a Vans sneaker. Kohlberger, the Pennsylvania man accused in the quadruple murder, was seen wearing Vans style shoes as authorities walked him into a Monroe County courthouse last week, but those cannot be the same shoes that left the footprint, experts tell Fox News Digital. So I didn't want to show the shoe because this is not for certain. This is just something that's similar, so I don't want to diminish that brand by showing the actual style of shoe. But if you go and do a search, you can see the different styles. Um, and check that out. I just wanted you to see the bottom impression of the shoe because it's very detailed and specific, unique. Okay, they could be the prison shoes that they gave him. The slip-ons because they don't want you taking off the laces and unenliven yourself, said Joseph Guy Cologne, a retired NYPD sergeant and adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. If police have recovered the shoes that left the print, they wouldn't be in evidence, he added. It was not immediately clear whether police had found a matching shoe, however. Kohlberger is accused of prowling around the home at least 12 times before November 13th, when police allege he went inside and ambushed Maddie Mogan, 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Zana Carnolo, 20, and Ethan Chaplin, 20. Judge Megan Marshall issued a gag order on the case last week, barring investigators and attorneys for both sides from making public comment on many aspects of the case. Additionally, if police do not have the sneaker, the size of the shoe that left the print could also be important, Cologne noted. It still doesn't answer the question of how he knew these girls. He said that's the big mystery still. According to Sharon Gray, the attorney for Goncalves' parents, no one knew about Kohlberger before the slayings. Any links the families uncover will be forwarded to Moscow police, he said. Paul Morrow, a former NYPD inspector and currently a lawyer, said the print is likely important because of how police found it by using chemicals that detect the presence of blood. Excuse me. First of all, they got the footprint, but also it probably helped them develop his path through the house because by using the technology that they did, it sounds like what they picked up was a blood footprint, he told Fox News Digital. He stepped in blood of some sort and left that impression, and apparently it's very vague, very faint. So they had to use this technology, which means he might have wiped it up. It will also help police track the suspect's movements throughout the house, he said. A surviving housemate, identified in the affidavit as Moscow Police Corporal Brett Payne as DM, told police she saw a masked man with bushy eyebrows walk by her on his way out the back door after hearing a series of alarming sounds. She told detectives she thought she heard Goncalves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here," according to Payne. She looked out her door, saw nothing, and then told police she thought she heard crying from Cornello's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay. I'm going to help you," the affidavit continues. She opened the door again and saw a figure clad in black clothing and mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. She told investigators she saw a male, athletic but not muscular, about 5 feet 10 inches tall with bushy eyebrows, Payne wrote in the affidavit. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. He continued. The man walked towards the back sliding glass door. Police said they believe the suspect left at that time. The footprint, according to the affidavit, was consistent with DM's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. These details can help investigators determine the order in which the victims were attacked. Kohlberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder and a felony burglary charge for allegedly entering the house with intent to unalive. So there was one other thing that I was kind of thinking about. I'm not sure I understand. One second. I don't want to really get into the car so much because I've kind of talked about the car quite a bit. Just talking about how the year was switched, the model was switched. Um, I know initially when the police put out their press release and they wanted for people to contact them if they had saw the white car. I can just recall in the press release them stating that there were occupants, like there were more than one person in the car. Um, that's a little concerning, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't recall, but I believe they said plural. The reason I'm bringing that up is because, of course, Brian Kohlberger said that he was alone. The one picture that they did have of him on the camera of his face, it appeared that he was in the car by himself, but also he stated in his alibi this was something that he regularly did, that he drove alone. So that's also something interesting. And I would like to know if they have any picture or video of him, not just the um, alleged suspect car, but placing him in the car. I think the bigger issue is they have to find a way um, to place him at the scene in the house. I think that's the biggest issue. I know a lot of people want to connect him to the victims, but honestly, they don't necessarily have to do that because there is a lot of history in cases like this, even with Ted Bundy, where some of the serial type killings are in post now. In this instance, there have been different things brought up about a possible stalker, and I've talked about this in the past. I would have hoped that law enforcement pursued that avenue and tried to determine if there was a stalker, which female or females out of the girls were being stalked, because initially the police was referring to the murders as a crime of passion. So that is another concern. There's so many questions. Um, I just do not feel at this time that the prosecutor is really prepared to put on a case that answers the majority of the questions and concerns. Um, just from the angle of one of the girls was being stalked. That's reasonable doubt that somebody else did it because they don't really have a connection from Brian Koberger to any of the students in the house, the victims or Ethan. Um, so that's a really big one. Also, not just being able to place him in the house at the time. I know they have the touch DNA, but there's no time on that. Um, I'm not sure if the defense is going to allege that there is some type of um, potential police cover up or set up against Brian Koberger, and that's why they was trying to get his DNA. Um, I'm not sure how they're going to try to deal with the touch DNA, giving different examples of ways to do that. I'm not going to do that, but that's something that they are going to have to address. But again, it doesn't place a time for that touch DNA to have been left allegedly on the knife sheath. I know they're still trying to get the knife, locate the knife, and try to get records to attach them to Brian Koberger that he purchased the knife, even the click activity from Amazon. So I know they're trying to do that. I think um, they're going to have to go back to this crime scene. They're going to have to go with a fine tooth comb, almost like starting over. I think that they should also consider investigating people again, maybe doing more interviews. I know a lot of students have done interviews and different things have come out about the case, just ensuring that you have the right person or all the right suspects that you're going to prosecute. Because as time is going on and we're approaching almost a 1 year, I don't feel like we're any closer to solving this case, getting the right suspect or suspects than we were when the case initially happened, because so much of the information has changed almost to be in line with this particular suspect. I think the most damning thing for Mr. Kohlberger is his alibi, him not having a way to really confirm his alibi, by him not taking any stops. He didn't have anyone with him. He didn't stop for food, anything to drink, gas. That's a big problem. And from past criminal history, we know that a lot of ex offenders, a lot of serial killers, they do their stalking at night. They do their peeping Tom at night. They do their watching, their surveilling, things like that at night, late at night, because they can get away with it more. Um, so it's just different things that's kind of working in the case. And I just hope that when the case goes to trial, the prosecutor is prepared and that is for the right defendant, or if there should be additional defendants, that touch DNA is uh, pretty compelling just because it is allegedly on the third floor with one of the victims very close to her. Um, it's just something is not right with the timing of everything with the two alive roommates not calling police. It's just so much that puts so much reasonable doubt. Um, the fact that they're not seeing this blood foot impression. Was there a cleanup? Did somebody try to clean the blood up? And also, whose blood was it? If there was a cleanup, like say, example, bleach or ammonia used, does that mean that they can't figure out who DNA that is? Because the bleach or the ammonia allegedly destroyed the DNA. They can just test it and see that that is blood. So was there a cleanup? Just so many questions. Just the calling of 911 and not asking for help. Um, so many hours later, and just so many mistakes by the police. I think we have more questions than answers. So I just wanted to come on just really quickly to kind of say, like, what is the direction of this case? Where is this case headed when sadly we don't have the murder weapon or weapons allegedly? They're having to try to get the purchase history, the click activity, to try to tie this weapon to Brian Kohlberger. And then what happened with the foot impression? What happened to it? Is that Brian Kohlberger the suspect's shoe size? Does he own a shoe like that? If they go back in his history, his pictures, um, did he ever own a shoe like that? Did he ever wear a shoe like that? It's a very specific shoe. Um, I want to know. I hope it comes out in the trial if this goes to trial. I know, I think let me think, I think it's October the 26th, possibly. Let me see, it's the 27th. The motion to dismiss the indictment is going to be heard, and I really, really want to know um, what's going to happen in that hearing and what's going to be some of the testimony. Is going to be a closed hearing, so we won't really know. We may just get the judge's order or decision on the motion. But I would really like to know what is going to be said at the hearing, like uh, biased jury. Okay, well, give us some examples of the bias, prosecutorial misconduct. There was several times where the defense referred to some of the behaviors, primarily with not providing um, the the evidence timely. So is that what they're referring to, or is there something more? I know the way the prosecutor handled the witness and having the FBI go and interview her, that did not seem appropriate. So I don't know if that's referring to that, but just so many questions, right? So I'm looking forward to that hearing closer to the end of the month to see what the judge's order will be. And I'm sure it's probably going to be maybe just a few sentences, so none of the evidence or testimony is revealed. So it's just a lot of things going on with the case, and um, I'm really, really wanting to know about this foot impression some more, just because of where it's at, being on the outside of DM's door. That makes me feel like if that potentially was the suspect, or um, you know, was he standing outside her door? Did he know she was in there and she was alive? And why wasn't she harmed? Was the door locked? Was she opening the door and locking it back and just taking a quick peek out? Did he try to open the door? How did he come to the point where he walked past her? Was she still in her room? Was she outside of her room? Was she in the opening where he would be able to walk past her to exit out that rear door on the second floor? Um, just having a hard time kind of visualizing that because of where her bedroom was in comparison to the path to leave out. It was not on that path. You'd have to go left versus keep going straight and exiting out. So that's definitely something that I'm having a hard time imagining, but I'm still thinking about it. Just him even walking past her, if he's the suspect, alleged killer, and not unaliving her also does not make any sense to me. Most people are not spared or not overlooked. Most criminals do not want to be caught, so they're not going to leave someone alive. They're not going to allow a potential witness to come forward and pick them out. So they will unalive them also, which is really strange in this case. Now the roommate on the first floor, I get it. Proximity, she's on the first floor. He may have never, or they may have never even entered the first floor, enter or exit the first floor at all. So maybe he didn't know that there was somebody on the first floor. I don't know. I also have a little interest in, just quickly say this, the sixth roommate, allegedly, from what I was hearing online and reading online, the sixth roommate moved out in August. Um, so if that's true, I would just be interested to know why the roommate moved out. You know, just thinking, why did they move out? Was everything okay when they moved out? Did they graduate or did they move to like a different location? Because this seems like a prime area, where people would want to live. I can't imagine too many rooms being vacant in this area, for long. Yeah, I don't think so. So that's just something else that I'm thinking about. I'd like to hear, anything that you're thinking about or what your interests are in the case. And I don't even want to think about guilt or innocence because I still feel like, um, the prosecution and the defense for some time now have been trying to prepare for trial. And I just feel like it's a disservice, the prosecutor not having everything prepared for trial prior to this. You can't kind of build the foundational stuff of a case by just arresting someone. It does not feel like the proper steps were taken to build a case, gather the evidence, have the evidence tested to know for sure that this is your suspect. It seems that this process is happening during discovery. Discovery is really a time where you're sharing the evidence and you're preparing for the trial. You're going to share the evidence with the defense. But it seems like they're collecting the evidence, they're testing the evidence, and they're trying to gain more evidence because the case appears um, to not be as strong as what they initially thought. Maybe they thought, when they initially did the arrest, that more evidence would come out, more supporting evidence, more um, positive results would come back to tie Mr. Kohlberger to the Idaho 4 murder. But it's not really happening. And you can't do that. You need to have the case strong before an arrest, before you uproot someone's life. You want to make sure that you have everything in order, from your DNA, from your testing, from the evidence, from how you process and handle the evidence, from your witnesses, any expert testimony. You want to have all of these things prepared in order, processed before the arrest. Because after the arrest, whether you do the preliminary hearing or you do the grand jury indictment, you're going to be preparing for trial. And that's why it's kind of a violation of his rights not to have a speedy trial because of the lack of preparedness. Now, yes, initially, I'm giving you grace. Um, at some point, he has to be able to start. The trial has to be able to start. He had a right to a speedy trial. Okay, that wasn't possible. Still sharing evidence, but you're still pursuing evidence. You're still doing subpoenas. And, this is almost a year later. And this man has almost been in prison for a year, in jail for a year. That's a long time. So it's not it's not looking very professional, very organized on the prosecutor's side again, especially with some of the statements from the coroner, some of the conflicting statements from law enforcement. Um, the crime scene again, it did not seem like it was handled properly. Just so many issues. I would not want to see this go to trial, and they're either going to have a hung jury, or it's just a lack of evidence tying Mr. Kohlberger to the murders, and they get a not guilty because it's so much reasonable doubt. And they have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't, can someone tell me how can they prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt with the facts that are known? Does anyone believe that the prosecutor could go to trial and get a jury? We're going to say a jury, not a judge trial, but a jury, to get 9 people, 12 people to all agree beyond a reasonable doubt of Mr. Brian Kohlberger's guilt. I just don't see it. And I know a lot of leakage has happened that can taint a jury, but when putting on evidence, right, how cases work is not always just the truth. We want justice, but is what you can prove. It's not just an idea. You have to prove the allegations. It's not just wanting justice, pursuing justice, trying to get justice for the victims. You have to prove the case. You have to prove the elements of the crime. If it says that the crime has to be premeditated, that means that you have to demonstrate, you have to show planning, not just say the person planned. You have to show it. How did they plan? Did they write something out? Did they tell other people? Did they, like they said, for example, being in that area 12 times, possible stalking, things like that? Those all go to show premeditation, right? Then you have to place the person at the scene. It's not enough just to say they did it. Oh, they did it. No, that doesn't work. That's not demonstrating. That's not evidence. Showing a person drive in an area where a murder occurred, that is not showing that that person parked, that that person got out, got dropped off, somehow went, arrived, entered into that dwelling and committed that crime. You have to place them there, not driving around, not in a car. That's not enough. And then, if possible, you want to put the weapon in their hand, right? You want to have that evidence to show the weapon if you can recover it, or if you can trace how they purchased it and it would be similar and match the wounds. Now, again, I'm concerned because of the leakage with the size of the wounds. Some wounds were gaping. You know, it's almost like it was two different knives or more than one weapon used. So you have to compare wounds. It's just so much in this case. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot that has to be done. Mr. Kohlberger doesn't have a criminal record. It does not appear that he's had any um, past deviant behavior. No, I don't want to say what's out there in the public, but his criminal record of any kind. Now I'm hearing different allegations. Well, has this person been charged? Have they been arrested? Have they been prosecuted? Have they been found guilty? Because there's so many rumors. Um, we can talk all day about various rumors, so we just want to talk factually. So, um, did the person have a criminal mind? What was their motive? What would be his motive? Initially, they said, "Oh, he's jealous of their life or their happiness, or the fact that they were enjoying their life." That's possible. I thought that more would come out, more evidence would be on the stalker, because to me that would be more of a direct line. But also, I didn't agree that a stalker would necessarily go into a house with that many people, that many cars. It would just be a great challenge when more than likely it would be easier to meet a victim one on one and or one on two, something like that. So I'm not sure. We're just going to keep watching and definitely update once the judge renders an order about the motion to dismiss the indictment. So I'm really looking forward to um, getting any information on that, what the defendant's plan is moving forward, and hopefully there will be some type of new trial date set, um, in the next couple of months. So I know they're still going through a lot of the evidence and trying to organize that and everything. So hopefully there'll be a new trial date. Um, but just moving forward, is the prosecution prepared? Are they going to double down on everything that they've been putting out there? They really believe that Brian Kohlberger um, is the suspect. However, can they prove it? Can they prove it? And I think another hill to climb is not providing that evidence and making the defense go through the motions to obtain the evidence. So that's another issue. It's so many things going on with this case, so many complexities. I do not want to forget the victims, their families, and the Moscow, Idaho community, and just keeping them all in our prayers, keeping the families uplifted. It's going to be a very hard time these next 2 months. The holidays are coming up. We got a new year coming up, and we want justice. We want justice for these four students, and we know that their families are doing the best they can day by day. They don't have justice. They don't have many answers. Um, they want to know the truth. They want to know why this happened to their kids. Um, it's just really unfair and it sucks. And it's just a trying time right now. And I know in the coming weeks, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging for them and their families and their friends and the university and the community as a whole. I know I was going to put together, I've been gathering photos, and I was going to put a picture memory video together in memory of them. And I'll probably put it out in maybe a week or two from now, just so that it's before the 1 year anniversary. But I know for the families it's hard. And even if the trial starts and they continue to go down this route, the prosecution continues to go down the road of prosecuting Brian Kohlberger, it does not give you um, the solace that you think, because you're not going to get your family member back. You're not going to get your loved one back. And that heartbreak, it doesn't heal. It doesn't change. You just find a way to live, to continue on with your life, in spite of all of the challenges that's coming ahead. So I just want to keep all of the families in thoughts and prayers and wishing them well. And um, it's going to be hard. This next couple of weeks is going to be very, very hard for them. So let's remember them. Let's remember the victims. Let's just send love and light to the families of um, Ethan, Maddie, Zayna, and Kaylee. Okay? So thanks for checking out this video. Um, I think you should check out some of the other videos in the Idaho 4 playlist or any of the playlists that I have. Um, I just want you to remember to be safe, be smart, be savvy, be well, take care of yourself. I'm wishing you the best. And I'm just going to say, have a good day. Okay. Stay well, my friends. Take care. Bye, everybody. Bye, friends.